Hey guys, just a little preface to this particular video today. I'd like to bring your attention to the need of one of our colleagues here online. The name of his YouTube channel is Maddie's Workshop. And Maddie has contracted a very rare form of cancer, and a GoFundMe page has been set up to help Maddie and his family cope with the excessive costs associated with all of the traveling, medicines, and all the follow-up care that he requires. So I'd like to bring your attention to that, and please, if you can donate, whatever it is that you can donate, it will help Maddie and his family a great deal. So I'll put a link in the description below. And thank you for your attention. Now let's proceed with the video. Welcome to Let's Roger That, to part 2 of making a protractor fine adjustment gear. In this part of the video, I'm going to start by figuring out how long the tip of the gear has to be to go into the back of this protractor right here. So that's the first step we need to do. I've already done that. I'll save you some time. Went down there like this with my depth gauge, and it comes out to 117 thousandths. Actually 113 thousandths of an inch. All right. So knowing that is one thing, but there are other things to consider. Number one, when you put this, when this gear gonna go in there, as you can see, if you have something long, it moves. And I've already tested this. It moves very, very nicely. But because the diameter of this gear is small, the fine adjustment is difficult to do. So the larger the knob is, quite simply, and the easier it will be to do a fine adjustment up to 1/12 of the degree, which is the capability of this protractor. Now we're going to need to cut this. One of the things that has to be done is I have to drill with a drill bit that's a 5/64 all the way in, because I'm going to produce multiple of these little gears. So let's look at what the knob could potentially look like. So I'm going to make something so that it has to sit flush on the back of this. That'll provide some steadiness. And then the knob is going to be larger at the top, clearly, in order to provide even finer adjustment capability. I've gone through my stockpile. I've got all kinds of brass, all kinds of stuff, but I've got a nice chunk of tool steel here, or one tool steel, that just begs to be worked on. It produces a really nice finish. So I'm going to use this stuff. The diameter is 11/16, so it should be nice. The other thing I've had to determine is the diameter of 5/64 is actually 78 thousandths of an inch. So we know that the length of that little knob that's going to marry with this gear needs to be 113 thousandths, and the diameter is 78 thousandths. So we'll put that in the lathe and let's get trucking. So the first thing I'm going to do is knurl the piece, because that's what requires the most force against the piece. And I've got a live center here supporting it. We're going to be driving this way, of course. Okay, so everything's in back gear. It's going to be running slowly. And the trick to this is quite simply run slow and lots of oil. So once I touch off, I like to go in about 20 thousandths of an inch. This is a medium coarse Knurling tool. And it's running pretty slow. Change the speed, the feed rate. Okay, let's continue. Couple years, 3 years, that's what I've discovered. And I like a medium knurl quite simply because it's comfortable on the fingers. Something else to consider is that if you were concerned about the edge here, you don't want your knurling tool to go past the edge, otherwise it'll just smush your knurls. But I'm not concerned about that, so I'm going to let it run through. The reason I'm not concerned is because I'm going to be carving out this edge here. this up a touch. Oh yeah, beautiful. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, the next step is I'm going to face off the this portion here and bring it down so that we have about 110 thousandths. Speed working. Not going too fast. Don't want too much pressure to put on the part. Okay, here we go. Back. A little more in. I'm in no rush here. Just want to keep things looking good. Now I'm going to measure the diameter here of this, and we'll subtract the appropriate amount so that we can get the little knob the correct diameter. Okay, so we are 374 thousandths. We got to go down to 78 thousandths. So that leaves us 296 thousandths to turn down. Manually now, about 20 thousandths at a time. That's 200 thousandths. 96 to go. $260. $280. If there's a very light touch with the file, just to break the edge. Okay, right down to the proper diameter this time. Nice fit. Well, now I'm going to take about 1/8 of an inch off. I still want a nice amount of surface to touch the back of that protractor. quick look at what it looks like. I'm kind of happy with that because now I have room to cut a gouge in here and make something that looks half decent. It's gonna leave the knurling, which will be about what, slightly over perhaps 1/4 of an inch. So now I want to take that down here, so I'm going to need a different tip. So I'm going to switch over to some really nice high-speed steel tip that I made a while back. It's kind of a rounded tip, just to do a nice rounded cut. And so I've taken my rule, lined it up with my mark, and so now I can go down until I reach this here surface, and hopefully that'll give me the look I'm looking for. So we'll find out really shortly. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's what I've done. I've angled my tool so that the curve is more, symmetrical, so to speak. So, and then when I reach the surface here, the end of the curve of my tool should reach the end of that surface. So I'm thinking that's going to result in something much nicer, and but we'll see how that works out. So I'm going to lock my saddle, and let's get cracking. See what happens. Okay, so now I just need to clean up the surface here a little bit, and I think to do that I'm gonna have to simply increase the speed. I was in bad gears, so I wouldn't create so much chatter. So let's get out of that, and let's get set up for just basically what's going to become a polishing exercise. But I'm glad my plan sort of worked. It looks pretty good. Let's see. Just a slight touch. Trying to take out that chatter that was happening without creating more, of course. Oh, nice. Okay, great. think you'll be impressed. I am. Doesn't take much. Okay, all right, great. So once I put a little bit of emery cloth on that later, if I do, it's gonna look fantastic. Okay, so now it's time to cut this piece off. And for that, I'm going to I use a cut-off tool of my own design. Okay, first thing I want to do here though is I'm going to create a chamfer at the end of this with this carbide tool. So I'm going to go in, create a chamfer, and then I'm going to come in with my cut-off tool and cut this part off. Alright. Make sure it's not going too fast. You don't want to go too slow either. Okay, here it comes. So here's our part. I'm gonna have to cut off that knob in the back, but other than that, she's looking good. Okay, reached the moment where that little knobby and gear is completed. Sorry I didn't film the cutting of the actual little gear lengthwise, but it's a no-brainer. And then of course I applied some Loctite, let it set, and works very, very well. I'm going to show you. You insert it in the back, nice and flush, and quite simply, as I turn the knob, it very slowly adjusts the degrees. So that's, you say, okay, well, why would you, how and what situations would you use such a thing? Well, that's where you calculate a particular angle that you need to achieve from machine or whatever, and then you dial it into your protractor, and then you scribe the marks on your material, and that's how you would do that. So that would be one of those things. So in my case, I'm very happy about this little gear. And I might just make a whole bunch for people who have lost theirs or just bought a protractor that didn't have one. Okay, next part is the magnifying glass. Yes, we're going to have to cut this in a shape that is appropriate, of the correct size and shape, in order to, and of course, make a bracket to mount it. And I can imagine that it's gonna go under this knob here, a little bracket of some sort, and that's gonna travel with this this dial. So I've got to imagine something, and that'll be the next portion of this project.